All right. Welcome back for another devlog for Balls Invaders. This time, there's no playable update. I just wanted to talk about the stuff I've been working on and planning for the next update. So, the first thing I did after the last update is to prepare a list of things that would be cool to add to the game. So let's take a look at that. So the first thing is the sound and music. That is a must and is really important in any game, but I'm not that experienced in this kind of thing, so I keep pushing it back. I will probably try some stuff and improve it over time. Then the next thing is all the stats of the game. So I wanted to rework the stats I have in the game. Now I'm using a JSON file for all my data, and I modified the stats so they can be affected by others. So if you increase vitality, you'll get 10 life points. And I can modify the name or any other data for those stats pretty easily. I could add more if I find something that could be interesting. And I like that since I'm never sure what I'm doing, so I like the flexibility. Next thing is the leveling. Right now, when you level up, you get some life, 1 point in strength, and 1 point in defense. But I would like to make it so when you level up, you can assign your points to your stats. Yeah, you would choose where you place your stats. And I'd like to add something more. Maybe the levels could be a resource, something like in Minecraft, or something interesting like that. But yeah, I'm not totally sure. So I'm probably gonna think about that while working on it, and we'll see. And then the modular inventory. I refactored the inventory I had because I didn't really have an inventory. I only had like 5 item slot in the game, so you have 4 for your equipment and 1 for the item you find after a world. Now I made a nice modular inventory system. You have an inventory for your equipment and one for your belt. So if you place an item in your equipment, it will be counted in your stats. And the belt is to keep some item that you find interesting, or you can use bags or other containers to add more slots to your inventory. And this inventory module, I can use it elsewhere. So if you would click a chest in the world or pretty much anything, you can open an inventory window like this test button. And then this is a big one that I find pretty interesting. The random item generation. I started to heavily modify how I generate the items. I'm trying to do something like Diablo or Path of Exile. I'm using an item level to get affixes and generate different properties on them. I'm trying to find some interesting rarities that have different quantities of affixes or scale of power. I might add item quality or some other special effect, but I'm still thinking about it. I'm trying to keep my code clean and easy to understand at the same time, because I might try to do some kind of tutorial on how I generate those items. I was thinking about a nice way to build the item itself. I thought about using inheritance, but if I want a normal item with lore and an item with stats and lore, then it doesn't really work. So I went the component way. I have my base item that always has a name, an icon, and rarity, and then I add the subnode for stats, lore, or inventory for the containers. So in theory, I could have a equipment piece that has inventory space, so that could be fun. I'm also using a JSON file for my items, and I load them at the start of the game. In a kind of resource manager, I have item type, and from there I can add a different component. So my containers have an inventory, my equipment items have one or more base stats. I could add their unique stats and lore here probably. So if you get a unique rarity, those stats would be applied. Every unique cat would be these stats. The next part would be the enemy AI. This is something I don't have a lot of experience with, but I'd like a nice and simple AI system. What I was thinking is to have some state or reaction that an entity could be in. So an enemy could have the reaction to attack the player. That's pretty simple. He could flee, move randomly, or move to a specific tile, and those reaction would be caused by condition. Something like the distance of the player, the time passed, the percentage of dead enemies, and those could be mixed and added to create interesting enemy behaviors. Maybe the first enemy in the first world don't really care about the player, they move randomly and only attack if they are attacked. And the enemies in the last world could group up with other enemy close to them and act differently depending on the time passed and other factors, so the player would have to be more careful. So yeah, I'd like to do something interesting with that, but I'm not sure how hard it's gonna be. Then there's some special tiles I'd like to add to the game too. Right now, there's not really any way to heal yourself, so maybe a healing tile could be interesting, but I'm still thinking about that part. Some kind of hot spring, probably. Some tiles could cause damage, so I could incorporate that with the AI. The enemy could try to hide behind them. Some interactable tile will be nice, so pressing a button to open a path. Tiles that modify stats, I guess I can come up with something interesting, but this is still just an idea. One big thing that I'd love to get, player island. For now, you start your game and invade other worlds from nowhere. You have no place to store your items or do anything else. So I'd like to have an island for the player where he could store some items, probably trade or sell. You could edit the island, probably build stuff on it, or maybe change islands later. But yeah, that's kind of a big system. But with that, I would like to get a structure or building system. This is something that really interests me, but it might be a big task too. You could build different structure to help you craft items or progress in the game. Maybe a mage tower to empower your items, to increase the rarity or fuse them together. You could have a building to reset your stat if you want to try something else. I was wondering what would be an interesting building mechanics. I was thinking a small building with just a UI that you interact with would be easy to implement, but a bit boring. Or I was thinking about big buildings that you can enter, you can get it in them, and you would have NPC to talk to. But yeah, they would be a bit more hard to code. I think I'm gonna start with a small system to test the potential and see from there what I'll do. And there could be also structure in the world you invade. So you would have to break the doors or find keys. You could loot the houses. That would add some stuff to do in different worlds. Maybe you could get inside a dungeon or something interesting like that. One more thing I did is refactor the world generation. Not really generation, but how I'm dealing with it. Before, each world were a resource and it was fixed. I was setting the data in the editor. All my 5 worlds were always in the tree, so I was just hiding and showing them. So I wanted to do something that allowed me to add more worlds easily or make random worlds or anything special. Yeah, so now I made them more editable. I can edit their name, level, enemies, and later I plan to add different goals, because now to win you simply need to kill all enemies. More goals would be more interesting. It took me way more time than I thought to refactor, and I still feel like it could be better, so I'll see where I'll go with that. But for now it should do the job. So, what do you think of that? Am I going into a feature creep? Do you have more ideas? If you're interested or have any question, you could come and see me on Twitch, where I stream some game dev during the week. If you're interested, I have a Patreon with some bonus too. With that, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.